Hi everyone. Well, I'll go right ahead and say it. I think some food in Japan really sucks. Now, before you grab your pitchforks, hear me out. Japan has tons of delicious, gotta try dishes. I absolutely love sushi, sashimi, yakiniku, okonomiyaki, soba, basashi, yakitori, tempura, and all manner of deep-fried tidbits. And the list goes on and on. But for all this deliciousness, there are some foods that I've given up eating. And I don't mean strange original Japanese dishes like the aforementioned basashi, which is raw horse meat, which is delicious, or natto, which is fermented soybeans, or even shiokara, which is more fermented fishy stuff. I kinda like all of them. The food here that really irks me is when Japan tries to take some famous foreign food and make it more suitable for Japanese tastes. Now, sometimes Japan gets this right. I love Indian and Italian food in Japan, not the Caesarea chain, it's disgusting. And French food is great as well, but some others. Join me in counting down my 5 foods in Japan that I think actually suck. Let's start out with number 5. Subway. Yes, the same Subway you know from back home, but trust me, it's a whole different beast in Japan. First off, the bread. It's sweet, like noticeably sweet. Imagine biting into what you think is going to be a savory sandwich, only to be hit with a sugar rush. It's jarring, to say the least. Then there are the fillings. Now, Subway in Japan does offer some interesting local options. Teriyaki chicken? Sure. Shrimp and avocado? Why not? But when it comes to the classics, something gets lost in translation. Another thing that really irks me is that vegetables often seem like an afterthought on these sandwiches. Tomatoes? Hope you like them paper thin. And don't even ask about how many slices of olives you'll get if you ask for them. I've even had some staff refuse to give me more vegetable toppings when I've asked for them. But the real disappointment? The sauces. They're different. The mayo is sweeter and the mustard is milder, and don't even get me started on what they call Italian dressing. It's like they took all the punch out of the flavors and replaced it with, well, nothing. Next up at number 4 are hot dogs. First off, finding a decent hot dog in Japan is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And when you do find one, it's almost always disappointing. Let's start with the sausage itself. It's usually this pale, anemic looking thing that's more reminiscent of a Vienna sausage than a proper hot dog. And the flavor? Well, let's just say it's not going to remind you of your last baseball game. And then there's the bun. Again, it's often this super soft, slightly sweet thing that feels more like a dessert roll than a hot dog bun. Where's the traditional sturdy bun that can stand up to your toppings? Not here, that's for sure. Speaking of toppings, this is where things really go off the rails. Ketchup and mustard? Sure, if you're lucky. But more often than not, you're looking at some bizarre combinations. How about some dried seaweed flakes? Or maybe a dollop of mayo and a sprinkle of dried bonito flakes? It's like they're actively trying to confuse your taste buds. And let's not forget about the presentation. In North America, a hot dog is a handheld food. Easy to eat, no fuss, no muss. But in Japan, they sometimes serve it up cut into pieces like some kind of bizarre hot dog sushi. Or worse, they'll put it on a plate with a knife and fork. A knife and fork for a hot dog. It's just not right. Sliding into third place, we have pizza from chain shops. Now, I love a good pizza. Who doesn't? But what passes for pizza in Japanese chain restaurants and takeout pizza shops is, well, it's an experience. First off, the crust. It's often so thin and crispy that it's basically a cracker with some toppings. Where's the chewy, doughy goodness? The satisfying tear when you bite into a proper slice? Nope, not here. And then there are the toppings. Japan loves to get creative, and sometimes it works, but more often than not, you end up with something that makes you question everything you know about pizza. Mayo and potato pizza? Sure, why not? Squid ink and fish eggs? Coming right up. Canned corn and tuna? It's like they're playing pizza topping bingo, and we're all losing. And let's not forget the size. In Japan, a large pizza is often what most of us would consider a personal size. So if you're planning a pizza party, you might want to order about 17 of them. And finally, the price. Absolutely crazy. You're looking at a good 3,000 yen for a large pizza, which probably only feeds 1 to 2 people. And even more depending on the number of toppings you get. Now, this is not to say that all pizza in Japan is bad. You can get some delicious Italian-style pizza at Italian restaurants, not chains, with wood-burning ovens. And in the larger cities, there are more North American-style mom-and-pop shops to grab a half-decent slice. But stay away from the big delivery chains and Italian chain restaurants. That's you again, Saizeria. Next up, at number 2, we have hamburgers from chain shops like Mossburger. Now, I know what you're thinking, but wait, Mossburger is a Japanese original. And you're right, but that doesn't make their burgers any less disappointing. Let's start with the patty. It's small, like really small. I've seen larger cookies. And the texture, that's the worst for me. It's often so finely ground that it feels more like a meat paste than a juicy burger patty. Where's the beefy goodness we all know and love? Actually, I don't even know how much beef is in these things. In Japan, it's usually a pork-beef combination, which really screws up the texture. And then there's the bun. Again, no need to go into that. But the real crime here? The toppings. Teriyaki sauce? Well, some people like it, but definitely not me. How about a burger with a fried egg and some mystery brown sauce on it? Not for me. And don't even get me started on the American burgers that are about as American as sushi. Oh, and the fries? Let's just say if you're expecting crispy golden potato goodness, you might want to lower your expectations. They're often limp, under-seasoned, and served in portions that would make you ask, why bother? I'm generally talking here about Mossburger, but the same goes for all the big Japanese chains here. Freshness Burger, Lotteria, Dom Dom, they're pretty much all the same. If you're looking for a chain burger place, stick to McDonald's or Burger King. And lastly, coming in at number 1, we have potato chips and similar snacks. Now, don't get me wrong, Japan is the undisputed king of weird and wonderful flavors. You want squid ink chips? They've got them. Wasabi Kit Kats? No problem. But when it comes to good old-fashioned potato chips, something just feels off. First off, the texture. Japanese chips often have this airy, melt-in-your-mouth quality that's just not satisfying if you're craving that potato chip crunch. It's like biting into a potato-flavored cloud. Sounds cool, but it leaves you wanting more. And don't even get me started on the serving sizes. It's like they're teasing us. But the real kicker, again, it's the flavors. Sure, you've got your standard salt and consomme, but then things get strange. Ever tried a chip that tastes like a full-course meal? Because in Japan you can. Sukiyaki chips, anyone? How about some nice grilled eel flavor chips? It's like they're so preoccupied with whether or not they could, but they didn't stop to think if they should. The real problem with all these are that they're off-puttingly sweet. Like most foods in Japan, whoever creates food ideas thinks they have to be a little bit sweet for Japanese palates. I think it's disgusting for potato chips. And just when you think you've been saved, you see some bags of Doritos or Cheetos or Pringles on the shelves, only to find out that these have all been redone to include some sweetness in them as well. I just want some regular crisp and salty potato chips. Alright folks, I know I said top 5, but I just can't wrap up this video without mentioning another major culinary disappointment that I just thought of. Japanese bacon. Where even to begin? First off, let's talk about what bacon should be. Crispy, salty, with just the right amount of fat that melts in your mouth. A breakfast staple that can even make the worst mornings bearable. Now, erase all of that from your mind, because that's not what you're getting in Japan. Japanese bacon is like the funhouse mirror version of what bacon should be. It's thin, and when I say thin, I mean you could probably read a newspaper through it. But the thinness isn't even the worst part. Oh no, it gets better, or worse depending on how you look at it. The fat content? Practically non-existent. It's like they went on a bacon diet and forgot to tell the rest of us. You know how bacon is supposed to have those beautiful streaks of fat that crisp up and give you that heavenly flavor? Yeah, forget about that. This is more like pork-flavored paper. You'd think with Japan's love of umami, they'd nail this, but nope. It's like they forgot to include the taste packet with this one. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but what about the fancy thick-cut bacon you can get at some high-end supermarkets? Sure, it exists, but it's pretty rare and twice as expensive. For your average bacon lover, it's just not a practical option. So there you have it, folks, Japanese bacon, the thinnest, blandest, most disappointing strip of pork you'll ever encounter. So, that's it. My top 5, well, really 6, foods in Japan that I think actually suck. Now don't get me wrong, Japan is still a food lover's paradise. There are so many amazing dishes to try, flavors to experience, and culinary traditions to explore. But sometimes when you're craving a taste of home, or just want a simple, familiar meal, Japan can leave you feeling a bit underwhelmed. What do you think? Do you agree with my list? Or do you think I'm way off base? Let me know in the comments below, and if you've had any disappointing food experiences in Japan, share those too. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more interesting things from Japan.